Hey guys, what's up? I'm here today to do a video game review. A game I just recently bought and played through, and um, I'm not sure how I feel about it. It's definitely a good game, but not as good as I hoped. And the game I'm going to talk about today is going to be Halo 4. Halo is a game that I have really enjoyed ever since I first really got into. I really got into it when Halo 3 came out. I bought that brand new, played the game, really enjoyed it. Got Halo 2, and then I played the game kind of backwards, but yeah, in the end, I figured out the story. I enjoyed the story. It's one of the best written and put together stories in a video game that I've ever played or followed through, and I've enjoyed pretty much every game up to this point except for Halo Wars, but that's just because I'm not into that style of game. But all the main games, Halo 1, 2, 3, Reach and ODST, I've enjoyed all of them. Um, but and with Bungie leaving at kind of a weird time, it kind of gives the new 343 studio a very big window of opportunity or a very big window to totally fuck up Halo. Because Bungie kind of left their main iconic character just floating out in the middle of fucking space, and along with Cortana, so they're two main characters, Master Chief and Cortana, just floating out adrift in space. And you are given a game which is a prequel with Halo Reach, which is an interesting story, and I had fun playing that campaign and all the differences in that game. They gave you ODST, which was cool to experience the game from a more human-like experience. I mean, given that you're still technically almost like a special ops soldier with being an ODST, but you're not a Spartan. You're not a super soldier. You're given a whole lot of um, you know differences. I mean, your character movements, your abilities that you do not abilities you no longer have, being that you're only human. You're not a Spartan anymore. You're not a super advanced soldier that can jump 20 feet in the air and take a whole lot more damage. So that was an interesting concept, and I did enjoy that game. Not my favorite, but ODST was definitely a solid game to me. Now, with Halo 4, they're definitely setting it up for 343 to have their own, you know, they're leaving their own message with their side of the Halo franchise. They definitely set it up for there to be a Halo 5, and whether that game is going to be good or bad, I have to get it simply because there's a shit ton of questions I have from this campaign that are totally unanswered, and I cannot have that. I have followed this game and this story for so long. I don't want to have a bunch of questions that I don't know what the hell happened. And maybe some of this stuff would make more sense if I had read the books, but I'm not a huge reader, and I'm a fan of this game. I've played every game. I own pretty much every game except for Reach, and I do not have Halo 1. But I've played them all, I've beaten them all, and I've enjoyed every one of them so far. But I just I don't know what to think about this game. There's a lot of positives, but there's a lot of iffiness to it because first of all, the story itself has so much going on. It's you really have to pay attention to it to follow because you've got the main problem in the story. The main thing I picked up from the story, Cortana, a very memorable character. The AI character is deteriorating. AIs are supposed to last, from what I remember them saying, 7 years. Apparently, Cortana has been around for 8 years, so she's already past her expiration date and is falling apart throughout this game and is really getting you in some sticky situations in this game. And Master Chief is basically trying to get her back to Earth to save her, which, by the way, does not happen. And but we'll get into that more. The other part of the story is you've got a whole new species of enemy and a whole new, bad guy who I will say is a lot more badass looking and a lot more evil and sinister looking than any of the Prophets or Covenant bosses that you would have thought of from before. But it's not quite as deep story wise. I mean, as far as that enemy goes. But because I mean, there's too much for me to get into with that. I'll try to take this one step at a time. First of all, there's the biggest question that I have is what the hell are the Covenant doing in this game? Why the fuck am I fighting Covenant species? I do not understand. It makes sense because that a lot of things could happen because when you wake up in this game, it's 4 years after Halo 3 happened. So I understand that within 4 years a lot could happen. But you couldn't tell me what the fuck happened in the last 4 years, that why I'm fighting elites and Covenant species, and why the hell the brutes aren't even around. I mean, we killed the prophets, and I know the brutes probably surrendered because they have no reason, they have no leadership anymore. The elites sided with the humans to help overthrow the prophets who had been lying to them and betrayed them. So why am I fighting elites? I thought we were cool. I thought we at least had like a thing where we were no longer enemies. But we're fighting elites, we're fighting Covenant for a reason that never will get explained to you, at least in Halo 4. You will never find out why. It makes sense that the Covenant after a while start helping the new Promethean species. They kind of bow down to them and start assisting them in their plans, and that makes sense. But why am I fighting them really in the first place? Why were they there? Because at first, everybody's enemies. The Covenant are fighting the Prometheans, and you're fighting all of them at the same time, and then after a while, you're fighting both of them at the same time because they're helping each other. Which is really just an unnecessary pain in the fucking ass, because why am I fighting them? And I will never know why. But unless I hope that gets cleared up more in the next Halo. But let me jump into some of the positive sides of this game. Some of the positive sides of this game, number one, graphics. There are some amazing and beautiful graphic designs done in this game. Some of the best I have seen in a long time. In fact, on the second mission, when you crash land on the Promethean planet for the first time, and you leave the crash site and you work your way through this cave and you get to this cliffside and you look out among these big Forerunner beams, these Forerunner, sculptures that are just huge. But you're surrounded by a beautiful landscape, and it just looks very realistic and very beautiful. But at the same time, in this game, you spend so much time in Promethean architecture and Promethean buildings that it really gets very repetitive. And I feel like back in Halo 3, they did a very good job with keeping the missions and the maps very diverse. A whole lot of different areas. You're fighting in deserts, you're fighting in jungles, you're fighting in, snowy mountains, you're fighting in occasional Forerunner architectures. There's all different types of areas and landscapes that you're fighting in. But in this game, I feel like there's just a whole lot of fighting going on around these Forerunner structures, and it gets very repetitive and somewhat boring to me after a while. It doesn't drag me in as much as the past Halos did. And that's disappointing to me, because those games I was fully into, and this one, because of that repetitiveness, it's kind of iffy. But another thing I'll give them a positive for is that they redid pretty much all the sounds in this game. The weapons sound fucking awesome, especially the human weapons. They sound a lot more beefier, a lot more tougher, and just every human weapon sounds awesome. They've all been redone, and it makes it feel so much better to shoot a grunt in the face with a fucking shotgun, because the shot, the cock of the shotgun, and the bullet flying out, the shell casing flying out, sounds fucking awesome and very realistic. The assault rifle, I've never been a big fan of. I've always been more of a battle rifle fan, but the assault rifle sounds fucking awesome. It makes the previous assault rifle sound like a fucking bitch. And if this sound had been in the previous Halos, it would have sounded fucking amazing. But that is something that I will give them props for. The new sound of the guns, both human and Covenant, sound very good. In fact, one of my favorite sounding weapons, just because it sounds awesome, is the Needler. The Covenant Needler weapon sounds It's fucking awesome to me. Um, and just really the sound has been redone, and little details like when you shoot with the sniper rifle, you can hear a shell casing hitting the ground and rolling, and that to me sounds just is fucking awesome. It's badass to have just that little tiny detail. It's not a huge difference, but that slight little thing just is just that much more awesome. And then you have the Master Chief's armor that you can hear kind of clunking together, and when you jump and land, you can hear it kind of, hitting each other, and it makes it feel a lot more realistic and a lot more like you're there. And the movement feels much different.